Philosophy can sometimes hit you out of absolutely nowhere. And in this video, I've carefully divided this concept we're about to cover into 7 parts. And once this video concludes, you may begin to ask yourself some deep questions about the modern world, much like I did. So, after reading The Gay Science by Nietzsche, I sort of had this epiphany. And the really strange thing is that this idea connects two concepts that seem completely unrelated. One is Nietzsche's declaration that God is dead, and the other being the modern development of AI. So, in the book, Nietzsche declared that God was dead, but he wasn't simply making a statement purely based on religion itself. He was describing what happens when humanity loses its highest source of meaning. And the concern wasn't that people would stop believing in God, but how he may actually be replaced. And I've started thinking about if we're currently living through a modern version of that question. For a long time, religion provided people with answers to life's biggest questions, like what is our purpose and what is good? And when these foundations begin to break, things can get a little messy for us because the questions don't disappear and human beings still want meaning and direction. And I think that's exactly the situation many people find themselves in today. You know, we're surrounded by more information than any generation ever, yet many people feel deeply confused, and people often find themselves searching for something they can't quite name. I myself actually feel this almost daily. And whether you're religious or not isn't really the point of this video. The point is that many of us are still looking for something capable of connecting us in a world that increasingly feels like it's almost slowly dissolving. And that's what makes the development of AI so fascinating to me, because AI isn't arriving in a society overflowing with meaning, empathy, and certainty. It's arriving at a moment when many people feel overwhelmed, exhausted, and unsure of what to believe. In a lot of ways, I guess we could say that it appears at exactly the right time. Not because it solves these problems entirely, but because it offers something really almost seductive. It offers immediate answers. When we're uncertain, it provides direction. And I understand why people are drawn to that. Human beings have always been attracted to sources of guidance. Technology and cultures have always changed over time, but the desire itself remains fairly consistent. I guess you could say it's really who we are. What's interesting is how quickly we've begun treating it as a place to bring questions that once belonged to mentors and religious traditions. Traditional concepts of God often included the idea of an all knowing presence, a source of wisdom beyond the individual, something capable of sort of providing understanding when human beings felt limited by their own perspective. And obviously, AI is not God, but psychologically, billions of people are increasingly consulting a system that appears to know more than they do, a system capable of producing guidance on demand. AI, on a screen isn't itself divine or anything weird, but it does fulfill a similar psychological function. It reduces uncertainty, and uncertainty has always been one of the heaviest burdens I think that as a human being we carry. This is where Nietzsche becomes especially relevant to me because his concern was never simply about belief. It was about authority. If old authorities break, what takes their place? Who shapes our values? And more people aren't only using AI to solve technical problems, they're using it to navigate life as it is. People ask AI things about identity, relationships, purpose. And while I don't think that's a bad thing, it does raise a question that I find difficult to completely ignore. At what point does this reliance on AI become dependence? And at what point does assistance become authority? One of Nietzsche's deepest challenges to humanity was this idea that we must eventually learn to create values rather than simply inherit them. And creating values is really difficult. It requires uncertainty. It requires navigating through questions that often have no obvious answer, which is exactly why the temptation to outsource that responsibility can become so powerful. What makes AI truly fascinating to me is that it did not emerge from some like alien civilization. It emerged from us, which means we are often interacting with a reflection of humanity itself. And mirrors have a strange way of revealing things we would rather avoid. Nietzsche understood something similar. The real subject has always been human nature. He understood that the things we worship often reveal more about ourselves than the object of worship ever could. And maybe that rings true here as well. The concern I keep coming back to is whether we become less willing to engage in the process of becoming ourselves. Because some of the most important moments in my personal life came from questions nobody could answer for me. Tough times teach us a lot, and the struggle of life itself has obviously changed me. I just think that immediate answers may sometimes arrive before we fully experience the transformation that comes from the searching part. If AI can answer every question, what happens to the person you would have become by searching for the answer yourself? That's the question I sort of can't stop thinking about, and what's compelled me to make this video. Maybe AI is simply revealing something that has always existed within human beings, a desire for certainty and comfort, a desire to escape the burden of not knowing. Maybe we gradually lose our willingness to confront uncertainty and participate in the struggles that create real depth in character. Because if Nietzsche was right, the real challenge was never surviving the death of God. The challenge was learning how to become something in the absence of it. Maybe one of the most important questions facing humanity today is not whether AI becomes our new God, but whether we remember how to become ourselves without being told exactly who to be. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. I'm doing my best to improve the quality of my videos and sort of find my voice on this platform. It would really help a lot. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.